Thank you very much, Stewie. Just a little background on myself. My name's Fergus Kiley. I'm the Managing Director for Mount Hope Mining, and I've spent my career cruising around the world looking at high quality assets. I've worked for major mining companies. I've done a stint in mining private equity. I've worked for some of the wealthiest mining sort of billionaires in Australia looking for projects. And I have a series of criteria that I look for in projects that allow me to invest in them. And this asset that I'm about to introduce you to today ticks a whole lot of these boxes. So I look forward to taking you through that. So where are we located? We are located in New South Wales' premier mining jurisdiction. This is the densest area of mining activity in New South Wales on a per square kilometre basis. There are nothing less than 7 operating mines and mills within this area, and a few more supplementary pits that feed that infrastructure. Mining's been occurring here for 150 years. Mining started in Cobar pre the Broken Hill discovery. That's how long they've been mining here. So what does that tell you about this jurisdiction? We have significant amounts of infrastructure, pits and mills, heaps of road, power, water, plenty of people, but importantly, a stakeholder community base that is built on the backbone of mining. People want mining in this jurisdiction. They want there to be mines. They understand it. It's the backbone of the economy. So we're operating in a place where people want you to be. Now, just before I press on with this presentation, I want to introduce you quickly to the company. We're a recent IPO. We IPO'd in December of 2024. We only have 47.4 million shares on issue. That's a very tight cap structure. Trading at 13 cents, that gives us a market cap of only $6 million. With $3 million of cash in the bank, we have a $3 million enterprise value. Ladies and gentlemen, let that just sink in for a second. This is a $3 million enterprise value company, and you get everything that I'm about to introduce you to for $3 million, with $3 million in the bank. So what do we have? Mount Solitary. This is our flagship asset. There'll be plenty of companies standing up on the stage introducing their exploration assets. We don't have that. We have a discovery here. Mount Solitary is a high-grade gold project. It's had historic work plus 2 campaigns of drilling that we've done to date. And our phase 1 and phase 2 drill programs have produced intercepts such as 6 metres at 18 grams from 55 metres, 19 metres at 4.5 grams from 39 metres. This project has had over 400 gram metre intervals that have already been drilled into it today. It's an outcropping gold system. It sits upon an 80 metre tall hill. We've done some preliminary cyanide solubility work, which already demonstrates a very high 88% cyanide solubility. So that demonstrates that this deposit is perfectly catered for a CIL, or carbon in leach circuit. You can see on the left-hand side, or your right-hand side, sorry, the significant intercepts table. This project has got not only very high grade, but some very long intercepts of strong grade. And on the left-hand side there is the exploration target. Now that exploration target is not an exploration target in the sense that that's what we think aspirationally is there. That is a non-compliant resource that the only way we could demonstrate or talk to the market during our IPO is present it as an exploration target. So that 1.8 million tonnes at 1.35 grams for 81,000 ounces, that is there today before we drilled a hole into this project. So for a $3 million enterprise value, you get an outcropping gold system with 81,000 ounces sitting in the heartland of the preeminent mining jurisdiction in New South Wales, with 7 operating mills where not a single one of them runs utilised today. And of those 7 mills, there are 3 carbon in leach circuits that are running underutilised today. So that is our opportunity. This is our strategy going forward. It's pretty simple. We have gold resources in the heart of Cobar at a time when all of these mines, which have been prolific mines, are running towards the ends of their lives. Not one of them is running utilised, and this is our trucking distance from each of these mills. Those CIL circuits are at Mineral Hill, 195 k's away by road, Wannawinta, or the Peak, 107 and 154. So they're the trucking distances on the left that you can see. And this business model has built the backbone of the West Australian gold industry for decades and decades. We're really just taking that tolling style arrangement, capital light development strategy, and exporting it here to New South Wales. And of course, the poster child for this at the moment would be New Murchison Gold in Western Australia. So Mount Solitary, I mentioned we've done 2 phases of drilling. We need 1 more phase to bring us through to a JORC compliant resource, which we're about to kick off next month. So that phase 3 program is commencing imminently. But importantly, with this phase 3 program, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to drill a couple of holes into that yellow envelope, which is the known mineralised envelope. That will tie up the rest of our JORC resource. It remains open in all directions, however. And so we're going to explore to the south. Now, we think we're sitting on an overlooked orogenic gold camp here, which is controlled by what we call the MS2 structure. Now, not a single drill hole has been drilled south of that yellow envelope there. So we're going to drill south of that. We're looking to expand the strike horizon by close to double. But we also did a CSAMT survey back in January that shows a highly resistive feature sitting only 200 metres south of where the gold is poking out of the hill at Mount Solitary. And that gives us a really prime target along strike south of the existing mineralisation, which we know is resistivity is a key feature for this because this is a silicified system that we're going to go exploring for and hope to expand the mineralisation. I note that all of this is from surface. We're drilling it with RC holes. We're at sort of averaging 200 to 300 metre depth holes here. So a little bit more about Cobar. Cobar, why is it unique? Well, it sits, all of the deposits sit upon these major basin scale structures. They always have some sort of structural complexity there, which forms these deposits at their respective locations. But what's really interesting about them is that they have some incredible vertical attenuation. The CSA copper mine, for example, is being mined at over 2 kilometres of depth today. I believe that is the deepest mining front in Australia at the moment, having had the Mount Isa mine shut very recently. CSA is being mined at a little over 2.1 kilometres depth. So, sure, you're welcome to fact check me on that a little bit later, but I actually think that that's what is going on there. But importantly, we sit upon one of these structures. We just believe it's been overlooked. You won't see it on any of the New South Wales Geological Department's maps. And we call this structure the MS2 corridor. Now, you won't see it on those maps because underneath our tenure on the right-hand side there, we've got these very big mag intrusions. These are the heat sources that are driving all the mineralisation in this copper and gold mining district here. And we've got this major structure, this MS2, which you can see in the orange, which we think is a splay of the Scots Craig fault, tapping those intrusions and bringing those mineralised fluids up to surface. This structure is the MS2 corridor. We've got the 2 bookends. You've got Mount Solitary and Mount Solar. These are prospects that have gold and base metals or gold and bismuth or just gold in drilling. They sit upon hills, they're hills themselves, and they've got intersecting northwest faults. And in the middle of it, we've got Powerline Hill and Little Mount Solitary. Again, silicified hills with a small amount of drilling or workings where the old timers have found veins and driven down on them, and people have come back and drilled. So that's the camp scale opportunity that we have here. So then we start looking at Mount Solitary and go, righto, what else occurs in the Cobar Basin that looks a little bit like Mount Solitary, or what does Mount Solitary look like? And we sort of start to do a little bit of investigation into the Peak gold mines, particularly a deposit in there called New Occidental. Now, New Occidental is in fact the largest individual gold mine in the Cobar Basin. It's produced over 1.5 million ounces of gold in its time. And importantly, it is a structurally controlled gold system. It's a low sulfidation, coliform, crustiform veining, very high grade, and it has a significant gold and bismuth association. Now, that's really important because when we go through and look at our assaying, and the rock chips and drilling that we've done to date, we see crustiform, coliform veining, we see low sulfur content in our assays, we see large amounts of bismuth, not gold associated, not gold locked up in bismuth, but just gold associated with bismuth. And we've only drilled 250 metres vertical. New Occidental goes for over 1.7 kilometres depth. It's produced over 1.5 million ounces today. And we think New Mount Solitary is an analogue for the top of New Occidental there. Now, if we think that's the case, and we think Mount Solitary is an analogue for New Occidental, well then why couldn't the MS2 corridor be an analogue for the Peak gold mines? So the Peak Gold Mines has been the mainstay of Aurelia's production assets for decades, and of course its predecessing companies, all the way back to 1983, when CRA went back and started re-drilling the Peak and put it back into production. So it's had continuous production for in excess of 40 years now. Over its time, it's produced over 6 million ounces of gold equivalent, and of those 6 million ounces of gold equivalent, 3 million ounces have come from gold. If you superimpose where we've drilled and explored on the MS2 on top of the Peak there, which is the orange box at the top down onto the bottom one, you can see that if we do nothing other than drill the open resources that we have and just follow them down plunge, the opportunity for us could be immense. We also have in this ground, because it's Cobar, next door to these targets, a portfolio of polymetallic style targets, sort of CSA, Cobar, Federation style targets that we're advancing exploration at the same time. We can drill test these coincident with our gold program because all of this whole entire area is within 10 to 20 kilometres of one another. So we continue to advance these in parallel with our gold targeting. And so this is it, ladies and gentlemen. I've done your homework for you. This table on the right here is a table that has all of the operations in Cobar. From left to right, you can see the type of operation, the status, you can see its distance from Mount Solitary, but importantly, about halfway down, you can see the mill type, the capacity, and the utilisation. So the utilisation number I've just taken from the 2025 financial year summary. But what's really important is that the capacity and utilisation, you can see not a single one of them runs utilised today. I mentioned there are 3 CIL circuits, which is Mineral Hill, Winter, and Aurelia's Peak. All 3 of them underutilised. So it's our intention to advance Mount Solitary rapidly through development by nothing other than bringing a resource to market and utilising its geographical advantages. We are 500 metres from the bitumen, power line runs over the top, we're on the doorstep of Mount Hope, we're 2.5 kilometres away from Mount Hope, which has people, dwellings, power, water, everything you would need for a capital light development, and we're just going to look at toll treating this material through one of those 3 mills, remembering all 3 of them need additional feed because in the basin people haven't really, other than the great guys at Peel themselves, been doing much exploration in the last decade or so. And so that's it. That's our vision. Clear and simple. We've got a very tight CAT structure, which we intend on maintaining. We've got a gold development strategy here, which we're going to look at advancing. We've got a project that looks like it's going to be perfectly suited for a CIL circuit. Alongside that, we've got our base metal portfolio, which we'll advance by allocating capital appropriately. And then, of course, regional consolidation, we'll look to utilise the existing resources to execute an ore purchase agreement or a tolling style operation. And so that's it. What are our next steps? We're going to initiate our phase 3 drilling next month. We'll complete metallurgical test work on that material. We'll have a maiden MRE out by the end of the year. That will advance us into being able to sit down and have commercial discussions with these mill operators. We'll look to advance our portfolio of polymetallic style targets alongside with that and look to advance the company in that direction. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Cheers.